Hello, BTS lovers. In a softly lit studio tucked away in Seoul's vibrant Hanam-dong, Jungkook, the golden magne of BTS, sits on a plush gray couch, his trademark iced Americano in hand, and a stack of handwritten fan letters resting on a wooden table beside him. The ambience is intimate, almost sacred, with warm fairy lights casting a gentle glow across the minimalist space, their golden hue mirroring the warmth in Jungkook's eyes. It's a setting that feels less like an interview and more like a late-night heart-to-heart with a friend, a rare glimpse into the soul of a global icon who, at 27, has conquered stadiums, shattered records, and captured hearts worldwide. But tonight, as the soft strains of his solo track, Euphoria, play in the background, Jungkook isn't here to talk about triumphs. He's here to talk about fear, the kind that lingers in the shadows of fame, the kind that makes even heroes tremble. And in doing so, he delivers a confession so raw, so honest, that ARMY will find themselves falling even deeper in love with the man behind the spotlight. As the cameras roll, a montage flickers across the screen. Jungkook laughing with his BTS hyungs, his infectious giggle echoing through a practice room, signing albums for fans with a shy smile, his eyes crinkling with gratitude, sketching quietly in a notebook, lost in thought. Text fades in, posing a question that sets the tone for what's to come. Jungkook, the golden magne, the voice of a generation. But what lies beneath the spotlight? It's a question that Jungkook himself seems ready to answer. His posture relaxed yet attentive, his black hoodie slightly frayed at the cuffs, revealing the intricate tattoos that tell stories of his journey. Thank you for sitting down with us today. I begin, my voice warm but curious. You've been called the golden magne, a global icon, a dream chaser. But tonight, we want to know the real you, the one behind the stage lights. Are you ready to get honest? Jungkook chuckles, rubbing the back of his neck in that familiar, endearing way that makes ARMY's hearts skip a beat. Honest? That's a little scary, Mia. He admits, his Busan accent peeking through, soft and melodic. But yeah, I'm ready. ARMY deserves that, right? He glances at the camera, his eyes softening as if he's speaking directly to the millions watching, a silent promise that this moment is for them. Let's do this. I dive in with a question that cuts to the core. Even heroes have fears. So what's something Jungkook has been afraid of, perhaps something he's never shared before? He pauses, sipping his Americano, his gaze drifting as if searching for the right words. The studio falls quiet, the only sound the faint hum of the fairy lights overhead. Wow, you're going straight for the heart. Huh, he says, laughing lightly before his expression turns serious, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Honestly, I've always been scared of letting people down. ARMY, my hyungs, my family, even myself. It's like this weight I carry, you know? When you're called golden, people expect perfection, but I'm just me. A guy from Busan who loves singing and sometimes forgets his lines. His sheepish smile is disarming, but the vulnerability in his words is profound. Jungkook, the man who's danced on the world's biggest stages, who's hit notes that send chills down spines, carries a fear so universal it's almost startling, the fear of falling short. When I ask where this fear comes from, he leans back, exhaling as if unburdening himself. It started when I was a kid, I think, he says. I was 15 when I joined BTS, just a shy boy with big dreams and bigger doubts. I'd watch my hyungs, Namjoon with his genius brain, Yoongi with his fire, Jimin with his grace, and I'd think, how do I keep up? I was the youngest, so I felt this pressure to prove myself, to not be the weak link. Even now, a decade later, that fear lingers, he confesses. Like, what if I mess up a performance? What if a song I write doesn't connect? What if ARMY stops believing in me? His voice softens on that last question, a flicker of pain crossing his face. That one hurts the most. It's a moment that will resonate with ARMY, who've seen Jungkook pour his heart into every note, every step, every selka shared on Weverse. To know that their unwavering love is something he fears losing is both heartbreaking and humbling. When I ask if there's been a moment when this fear felt overwhelming, Jungkook leans forward, his eyes intense, as if reliving the memory. "Oh, definitely," he says, his voice carrying a mix of conviction and vulnerability. He recounts a night during BTS's 2021 tour in Los Angeles, a stadium packed with 70,000 fans, their purple lightsticks creating an ocean of love. He was set to hit a high note in Black Swan, but illness had left his throat raw, his confidence shaken. "I was terrified I'd crack, that I'd ruin the moment for everyone," he admits. "I stood backstage, heart pounding, thinking they came from magic and I might fail them. But then something shifted. I heard ARMY singing along, their voices carrying us," he says, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "And I realized they're not here for perfection. They're here for us, flaws and all." That realization propelled him onto the stage, where he gave everything, even if the note wasn't flawless. "That's when I learned fear doesn't have to stop you. It can push you," he says, his words a beacon for anyone who's ever doubted themselves. For ARMY, it's a reminder of why they stand. Jungkook's courage shines brightest in his most human moments. Digging deeper, I ask about a personal fear outside of music, and Jungkook hesitates, biting his lip, a rare glimpse of uncertainty from someone so composed. "This one's tough," he says quietly. "I've never talked about it publicly, but I'm scared of losing myself. Fame," he explains, "is a disorienting maze of mirrors, with everyone, fans, media, even friends, reflecting back their own version of who he is. Sometimes I wonder, am I still the Jungkook who used to draw comics in his notebook? The kid who'd eat ramen with his mom and laugh at bad jokes? I'm afraid that one day I'll wake up and that guy's gone, replaced by this idle version of me." His voice is barely above a whisper, and the studio feels smaller, as if the world has paused to listen. It's a fear that cuts deep, especially for someone whose life has been under a microscope since adolescence. When I ask how he fights to keep that real Jungkook alive, his face brightens, a spark of resilience igniting. "Little things," he says, his tone lifting. "I sketch when I can, doodles of Bam, my dog, or random stuff like a starry sky. I call my mom and bug her about recipes, even though I burn everything." He laughs, the sound warm and infectious, easing the weight of the moment. His BTS youngs, he adds, are his anchors. Jean will tease me about my gaming skills, or Tay will drag me to some artsy cafe, and suddenly I'm just Jungkook again, not BTS Jungkook, he says, his smile fond. And then there's ARMY, whose love is a lifeline. Their letters, their tweets, it's like they see the real me, he says, his voice thick with emotion. He recounts a recent letter from a fan in Brazil who wrote that his music pulled her through depression. I cried, he admits, his eyes glistening. It reminded me why I do this, why I can't give up. Jungkook's connection with ARMY is a two-way street. But has he ever feared being too vulnerable with them? He nods slowly, his expression thoughtful. "Yeah, that's a big one," he says. "I'm pretty private, even with my hyungs. Opening up feels like standing naked in a storm." He laughs nervously, a blush creeping up his cheeks, and it's impossible not to adore him in this moment. "I worry that if I share my fears or struggles, it might burden ARMY. They've got their own battles, school, work life. I want to be their strength, not another weight." But ARMY's honesty, he says, has taught him otherwise. "They share their stories with me, and I realize it's a two-way street," he explains. "So, I'm trying to be braver. Like this interview." He grins, a playful glint in his eyes. "If I'm shaking inside, don't tell anyone, okay?" The quip draws a laugh, but it's his courage, his willingness to bare his soul, that will stay with fans long after the cameras stop rolling. When I ask about a specific moment of vulnerability that made him stronger, he takes us back to 2019, to BTS's first Grammys appearance. At 21, he was thrust onto a global stage, representing not just BTS but Korea itself. "The pressure was insane," he says, chuckling at the memory. "I was scared I'd trip on stage or say something dumb in an interview. I barely slept for days, just practicing my English, rehearsing every step. The night before, a panic attack hit. leaving him gasping in his hotel room. It was Namjoon who found him, offering quiet wisdom. Jungkook, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. Those words became a mantra, carrying him through the performance. I went out there, and yeah, I was nervous, but I felt alive, he says, his eyes alight with pride. Facing that fear made me realize I'm tougher than I think. For ARMY, it's a story that underscores why Jungkook is more than an idol. He's a testament to resilience, a mirror for their own struggles that Jungkook's hyungs, he says, are his rock, each offering a unique kind of support. Namjoon's like a philosopher. He'll drop these deep life lessons that make you rethink everything, he says, grinning. Yoongi's quieter, but he'll just sit with you, let you vent without judging. Jimin's a hugger. He'll wrap you up and make you laugh till you forget why you were scared. Taeyoung, he adds, is a dreamer, always pulling him into whimsical adventures, while Jin's humor, often at Jungkook's expense, keeps him grounded. And Hobi? He's sunshine. Jungkook says, his voice warm. He'll dance with you, hype you up, make you feel invincible. I wouldn't be here without them, he says softly, a hint of emotion in his eyes. I hope they know that. It's a moment that will make ARMY clutch their hearts, reminded of the unbreakable bond that defines BTS as an artist. Jungkook faces fears in the studio too. Creating is scary, man, he says, his voice animated. Every time I write a song, I'm terrified it won't be good enough. He recalls doubting every note of Euphoria, a fan favorite that became an anthem. Even now, as he works on solo projects, the fear persists. I get this voice in my head saying, what if it flops? What if ARMY hates it? He admits. But music, he says, is his safe space where he channels his fears into art. He teases a new track about feeling lost and finding your way, but laughs off any spoilers, leaving fans buzzing with anticipation. Looking to the future, Jungkook's dreams are as big as his fears. I want to keep making music, maybe try acting, or even open a little art studio someday, he says, his smile dreamy. But change terrifies him. I'm scared of losing what we have now. This bond with BTS, with ARMY, he confesses. What if life pulls us apart? What if I'm not ready for what's next? Yet his faith in their shared journey grounds him. We've faced every storm together, he says, turning to the camera. And ARMY, you'll be there, right? Don't leave me hanging. As the interview draws to a close, I asked Jungkook for a message to ARMY about facing their own fears. He leans into the camera, his eyes earnest, his voice steady but brimming with emotion. ARMY, listen, he begins. Fear's a part of being human. It means you care. It means you're alive. I know life can feel heavy sometimes, like you're not enough, like you'll never make it. But you're stronger than you know. Every time you get up, every time you try again, you're winning. His words feel like a hug, a rallying cry, a love letter. I'm scared too. Every day, he continues, but you give me courage. Your letters, your cheers, your purple hearts. They remind me we're in this together. So don't hide from your fears. Face them, sing through them, dance through them. I believe in you, just like you believe in me. We got this, okay? The studio falls silent, my own eyes misting as I thank him. Jungkook, that was beautiful, I say. Thank you for being so real. So you. ARMY's going to love this. He blushes, scratching his cheek. Ish, don't make me cry on camera, he jokes, laughing before adding, thank you, Mia, and thank you, ARMY. I love you guys. He forms a heart with his arms, winking, a gesture that will send fans into a frenzy as the camera zooms out. Still With You plays softly, and text appears. Jungkook, our golden magne, our courage, forever with ARMY. A final montage shows fan art, concert clips, and Jungkook reading fan letters, his smile radiant. A fitting end to a conversation that will echo in ARMY's hearts for years to come.